I'm Sean. I am
Is
a
there
game
audio?
designer.
Wait, hold on.
I had the microphone muted.
Oh no.
So that was just a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
Is it not muted now?
My fault. We're not muted anymore.
Stupid chat. Oh damn. Man, that's great.
I'm an idiot and I apologize.
All right, so round two.
Round two, introductions?
Yep.
All right, it's me again. Hi, I'm Marlena. I'm a game designer. I work here at Schell Games.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I work at Schell too. I'm a 3D artist.
Hey, I'm Kwame. I work here at Schell. I'm a VFX artist.
I am a game designer at Shell. My name is Sean.
Hi, I'm Sarah Will, and I'm a game designer for SimCoach Games, not Shell.
And hi, my name is James, or Plague TV. I'm a live broadcaster on Twitch, and I help indie devs run promotional campaigns on Twitch as well.
I'm Steve, indie dev, Portable Moose, also work with Wither Studios. I created Solid Face.
I'm Zach. I work for Battery Staple Games. I make a little game called 20XX. I'm a game artist.
I'm Dual Daigle, UI UX designer here at Schell Games.
Evan Myers, VP Design at SimCoach Games.
Hey, Steve's got a fan. Good stuff. Thank you, Abby.
I mean, you didn't. Your intro wasn't heard by anyone, so you want to intro again.
Ah, that's right. I thought I escaped. All right, Dan, we'll keep fixing the audio. We'll try to make sure that we are nice and loud. So, yeah, the person you hear is Dwayne. He's on the marketing team here at Schell Games. And on the live chat commentary moderator is, go ahead, Mike.
I'm Mike T. I am a programmer, sometimes project director here at Schell Games, and sometimes I forget to unmute things.
So cool. So please, if you have any questions, comments, topics that you want us to talk about, Steve, Tired Bunny says you're sweet. That's awesome.
Steve's got all the fans.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, just show up and just talk to Steve. Cool. So first, what I kind of want to hear is just some origin stories. What brought you to Pittsburgh? Let's start with some of our guests here. How about James from Plague TV?
Sure.
What brought you to Pittsburgh?
So I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I went to school in Ohio. During the day, I worked for University of Pittsburgh Medical Center here, who Schell actually has a bit of a relationship with. But then about 2 years ago, I kind of discovered the Twitch platform and wanted to do a little bit more with it, and sort of realized there's a little bit of a, it's not a hole, but especially in the Twitch universe, there's a little bit of a hole on the East Coast. It's very West Coast centric, and so I kind of had this idea of trying to build communities on the East Coast of the United States and kind of advocating for the time zone in its own. So that's kind of how I've been here. Yeah.
Represent.
Cool. We'll save Steve for last. Okay.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, gotta hype it up.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah.
Well, I grew up not far from Pittsburgh, went to school at the Art Institute, and kind of fell into gaming. I went to school for animation, and someone came to a portfolio review and was like, "Hey, do you want to make kids games?" And I said, "Sure." And now I work for SimCoach.
Very cool. Seth?
This is a really weird and esoteric story about how I came to Pittsburgh. A buddy of mine went to Carnegie Mellon, I went to Micah, and we've always been really close. And I work from home with Battery Staple Games. It's really small, tiny indie. And so I just moved here to be closer to him and his friends, and been here ever since.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I moved here to go to grad school at the Entertainment Technology Center at CMU. Had no intention of staying, but opportunities presented themselves, and now I've lived here for like 16 years.
Nice.
So.
It's a classic Pittsburgh story.
Yeah.
16 years later.
Still here.
Wanted to leave, and they pulled me back.
Happily though, I was happily pulled back in.
Yeah.
Hey, you were reaching. I gotta go.
I will say,
Family watching?
yeah.
It's the weird thing about my story. I'm like, I'm here by choice.
We all made a choice.
Yeah, I guess so.
Steve?
I moved here for school in '05. Started a little company, Wither Studios, after school, and just kind of stayed here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know too much about some of our Schell gamers. Marlene, what brought you to Pittsburgh?
CMU. Went to CMU, hung out for a while, was in computer science. Was like, but what if I played video games and made video games all the time, every day? And that's a longer and more esoteric story, but that's the long and the short of it.
Woo, Marlena, better than Steve.
No, it's not right. It's only friends.
John?
Yeah. So CMU also brought me to Pittsburgh originally for the Entertainment Technology Center. Then I went back to New Jersey, and then I came back here for Schell Games, and I've been here ever since. So, yeah, Pittsburgh. Woo!
Good deal.
Also from Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey.
Also from Jersey. Well, you're from Jersey too, Steve?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
I just said two. I said I'm not from Jersey.
You don't get a high five.
No high five for me. No, I'm one of those born and raised Pittsburghers. But good, Tyler.
Oh, I'm from Jersey too.
Woo, Jersey.
As is like half the show apparently. Yeah, no, I went to a school for animation and I was like failing classes because I was making source maps on my free time. So I switched over to game design and it's working a lot better.
Cool.
I came to Pittsburgh with nothing. It was just me, my girlfriend, and my car. We had nothing here. Came here only because I knew that the Art Institute had the game art design program. So I was like, that is what I want to do. I always wanted to make games. It's always been what I did. And I was an artist before. So I decided to come here, do that. I didn't even know that there were game studios here, so I was ready to leave. This opportunity came one of Gabe Sabrin found me, and he was one of my students or one of my teachers. So he was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Really? This is work? Cool, because we were ready to go." And I've been here since. So it's been, I think, 11 years here at the studio and like 15 in the area. Yeah, Pittsburgh was not a place I expected to stay, but it's been great.
Cool.
Yeah, almost the same story as Kwame. Like, we were in the program
Yeah,
together.
we were
too.
together in school. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. One of the Art Institute was one of the first schools to offer the game design program. So I was following that online, and I was like, I want to make games. I've wanted to do this since I was like 12.
Yeah.
So I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I came here for that. Then worked in educational games for a while. And I've been here for 15 years. So it's a great place. Drags you in, can't leave.
Not that you want.
It's sticky. It's sticky.
Oh, that's a good term for
It's
it.
sticky.
I've had a lot of friends who have left for like a year or two and then been like, I miss you guys, I want to come back, and then they do, and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I left Pittsburgh for 8 years, and then I came back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's like, you get to like a certain age in Pittsburgh, it's just like, come back, come back. And so it works. So that's interesting that some of you didn't know that like Pittsburgh had a game dev scene here. How do you see it, growing, transforming? I'm sure Doyle, Kwame, even you, Sean, you guys have been here for a while. You guys, and Evan, you were one of the first classes for the ETC, right?
Yeah, I was a year after Sean, so Sean's got me beat.
Aha! But yeah, 2003, 2004 we graduated, and it's definitely grown up. I mean, not just the game dev, because there's been a bunch of those. Some have lasted longer. Some went out west, and some stayed here. But also just tech in general, right? Like we've got the Googles and the Facebooks and the Oculi and the Ubers and all these tech companies are opening up. So it's kind of, we're reaching this tipping point of sort of tech in general, that it's like we're bringing in more people. And it's also nice, like we've had some artists here at Schell, maybe one comes to mind, a guy named John, super awesome guy, here for a very long time, and he was amazing character artist, but we weren't leveraging his talents maybe as much as we could have been, and he was able to move over to Oculus, right? So it's like, now that we have this sort of critical mass of companies, we're becoming more stable as a result, and it's the better for the industry. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot.
People can jump in.
Yeah, it would be cool to see some indie or smaller game studios. Like, I've been aware of SimOps. I honestly don't know too much about you guys. It'd be kind of cool to learn more. But like, I didn't know you guys were still here actually in Pittsburgh. I knew about you guys when I was at the Art Institute as an option for a studio here in Pittsburgh. But yeah, Schell Games is the one I'd always known about, and they're kind of always been like, sort of the big dogs for gaming. But I'd like to see more game studios. I think it'd be good for us and Pittsburgh in general.
I agree. You guys went through a sort of metamorphosis at one point, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were founded under the lovely name Etc. Edutainment, which we decided at some point that it was easier to spell SimCoach Games. So we went with that. Yeah, I mean, we were doing sort of corporate training games early on, and now we're doing games for workforce development, career development. So we have kind of a little niche, but we're I think maybe we're still the second biggest game studio in Pittsburgh after you guys. I think you guys are about a factor of 10 our size. So we got a little ways to go, but yeah. Then I mean, I keep running into little indies that I had no idea were here. Has anyone else here met the Toaster Pets guys?
No.
Toaster Pets, where are you? Come to this room.
There's a group, they're out in East Liberty, making a game called Toaster Pets. I guess it's not out yet, but soon. So,
man.
Toaster Pets?
Yeah.
Toaster.
Anyway, let's- yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Can everyone in the room say toaster pets?
Yeah, everybody's
Toaster pets.
Free promotion if we say it enough to they appear. Are they members of? So BitBridge is a local indie dev. Doyle, would you like to talk
Yeah,
about
we're like
BitBridge?
a local indie collective, and it's been kind of like in the background working a little bit the past couple of years, and we've done some art gallery events where we'll get like an indie showcase going on, and we've been at a couple like local gaming related events, and every year we do a Halloween showcase where like a bunch of indies get to show up their games, and we have beer and foodies. It's a pretty good time. This year we're kind of like taking it a little more seriously. We have like monthly meetups. Arlena's a part of that. We have some other guys here at the studio.
I just joined that today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, we have 2 events coming up here in Pittsburgh. We're going to be at Techo and Pittsburgh Retro Gaming Con. We're going to have multiple booths showing off local indie devs. So I think we're trying to push just more awareness of like what's going on here in the city.
Where do you meet up?
It's kind of all over the place. Like we'll talk about it like a month or 2 ahead of time and go wherever. So it's been coffee shops, or we've met at some libraries.
Linux Lounge.
If I wanted to learn more about BitBridge, what website would I go to?
Follow us on Twitter
And Facebook.
and Facebook.
Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on the website right now.
Working on the website, Twitter and
It's
Facebook.
not out yet.
BitBridge.
Yeah. We've also got a Discord.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And if I don't have a good way of linking that into the chat, but like
Mike will do it. Magical Mike will link it in.
Yeah, the Discord right now is our pretty much biggest way of communication. And it's how we've been organizing a lot of this stuff. So
Cool.
we're gonna join it.
It's great that you're like that, you guys, because I've been pretty impressed. So like Replay Effects has been coming around the last couple of years, and that's huge. There's a lot of people, and the more that you guys can get. I've been to a couple of other, like I've gone to MagFest and I've seen the indie space, and the indie space is really sweet. And like Replay, I want more. I'm like more, like more indie space. So like you get, I'm happy to hear that you're going to cons, like because that we're going to cons, and hopefully we can keep doing that because there's a lot of people that don't know that the game industry is kind of flourishing here. There's like this bubbling up, and there's a lot of talent here, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. So like that is exciting. Like definitely keep pushing it, James. Let's all keep pushing that. That's dope. So like, yeah, the more we can do that, the better for sure.
Totally, and to that con specifically, like we actually met last year there, and we were the only ones there, and then you guys were there.
Yeah,
it would be cooler to get a nice growing area this year.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
As someone who works like at home on a singular project, it's easy to get like tunnel vision and not step out into the greater.
Yep.
So like just sitting in here listening to this scene that I didn't even know was around is great. I can't wait to get more involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. For BitBridge, I've been doing a bit of research and who actually are there actually indie studios and like small indie groups and people working on their own projects in and around Pittsburgh? And there are a lot. Like, no, seriously, like not even counting the universities, and the universities have a huge scene, like Game Creation Society and the Entertainment Technology Center, but like also there are meetup groups, VR groups, and like people who are working on stuff by themselves or who will hang out and work on stuff, but like nobody talks to each other, and they should talk to each other, because it's a big scene. It's just quieter, I think, than some of the other ones.
And we have a really good global game jam scene here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
This year alone was like
we had
close to 100 games or something.
Yeah, we had 100. We had
130 people.
164 people.
164 people.
Well, that was the one we were at, but there's also the CMU one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of games.
So there's the International Game Developers Association and the Pittsburgh chapter or PIGDA. We had, for a while, a very closely maintained list. It might be a little out of date now, but if you go to pigda.org, you can check out various organizations. And I know Mike is on both the board of directors for that and very active in BitBridge. And so we host the Global Game Jam, which is, I think, if not the largest, one of the largest, or at least
We're
top
the top
3 in the United States.
10
One of the largest.
Yeah,
in the US.
in the US.
Yeah.
So a huge Global Game Jam. We also do a board game jam. We've done lightning talks in the past. We do a yearly picnic, things like that. So if you want to become involved in that or go to some of the events, check out pigda.org. And yeah,
Cool.
a lot of stuff going on.
It is. It's just all quiet.
Yeah. So you guys, one of the reasons why I reached out to some of the people in the room and tell us like, hey, so and so might be interested in coming, is because you guys are working on some pretty cool stuff. So what I would like to do is just hear some of the things that you guys are working, like for example, Sim Coach. You guys just are talking about the Smart Start.
Site Coach Smart Start.
There you go. You should talk about it, not me.
I'm not guaranteeing that I won't get it wrong either. Yeah, so we just to step back for a second, we have a platform that we call the Sim Coach Skill Arcade, which is a career development platform that's intended to help youth and young adults find their way into the best and most relevant careers for them. And so that platform encompasses a lot of different games. Site Coach is our latest release, which is a game about sort of safety on construction sites. It's something that is real enough and was built in conjunction with construction companies that it's being used as a site orientation tool for construction sites, actual construction sites. So if you see construction like Mositis was one of our partners, so if you see their signs out there, there's a good likelihood that our game is being used on their sites to orient people. But it's also simple enough and fun enough that anybody can really pick it up and learn something about construction. So that's a way for someone who might be interested in a career in construction to build some basic skills and basic knowledge before they even enter the industry. So that's, we're super excited about the Skill Arcade as a platform, and Site Coach is the first in a series of games that sort of surround those issues, safety issues in construction. So it's a funny topic to build a game about, but it turns out to be pretty cool.
Question, what kind of game is this?
So this game is, I guess you might call it like a seek and find. So like there's the ones
Like
you
an
see.
RPG, like third person, like a
Like Where's Waldo kind of.
Oh, okay. Old school.
Yeah, old school. So like, has anyone here played Hidden Folks? Yeah.
She's like, yeah, definitely.
The designer for Sim Coach Games.
It's a little indie game where you have all these little people doing funny things, and the whole idea is to find stuff.
Okay.
And so this game is actually the 9th game we've built that follows this design pattern, and we've iterated it. And I would say our first ones are okay, but the newer ones that we're coming out with are really good. And our designer Brian Lagagna is really instrumental in driving that. So Brian, if you're out there, you're doing awesome. So it's sort of a seek and find game with kind of like a percentage score and some bonus things. And so.
We gotta find bad stuff that you wouldn't want to see at a construction site.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I actually watched someone play it who'd never played before earlier today, and there's a lot of stuff that's common sense, and then there's stuff where you look at it like that could be like there's an empty bucket. And it's like, I don't know, maybe an empty bucket just sitting there, maybe that's a hazard, maybe that's something that you don't want, and no, it's totally fine.
Okay.
So through the feedback system, you learn that stuff pretty quickly.
Cool. I was excited to learn how an empty bucket would be dangerous.
If there are babies, maybe?
Listen, it's only dangerous if you like to party.
When is an empty bucket not dangerous?
Yeah, right.
Tyler wants the unsafe game that teaches you to be dangerous.
So that's a great key. I can't resist. So we have a game called Harness Hero where you learn about fall protection in construction, and the game ends when you push your guy off the edge of the building. And if you've made the right choices, he falls and then dangles, and if you make the wrong choices, he falls.
It's very dark.
Chosen poorly.
It's real though.
Yeah, he's chosen poorly.
We're going for gritty realism here.
Do you have a VR purpose?
that'd be perfect.
That's yeah, maybe someday.
Are these mobile, PC, whatever?
Mobile games. So check your favorite mobile app store.
Cool.
Sweet.
So you see like a headline, it's like a guy from a building, it's like he didn't play that game.
Should have
needed
played.
training.
Yeah.
Missed out on Harness Hero. Oh. So 20XX.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. I don't know how to start these things. 20XX is it's kind of a very strong Mega Man X inspired roguelike. So Mega Man X with your friends, but all the levels are randomly generated with a very complicated algorithm that I had no hand in. Like I said, artist over here. We've been working on it for 4 years now. We released last September.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a ride. We just released our first DLC, a character called Hawk, who is like so Ace is the sword character and Nina is the buster character, and so Hawk has like a whip and she's got like cool abilities and hey, there's screenshots.
You said with your friends. Is it multiplayer?
It is co-op, online and local.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good time. I enjoy it. I'm a little biased, but
I think it's a great game.
I have fun. I'll tell you on the scale of how hard it is. I only beat it like 2 months ago for the first time ever. In our 4 years of development, I never actually finished the game.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I sat down one day and I was like, "This is the day. It's gonna happen." No, and all my friends came over and who was it that Marlena? Who was it that tweeted me?
I don't know.
The guy who writes for Gearbox, who writes Borderlands. What's his name?
I have no idea.
He's watching right
Birch.
now.
Anthony Birch. Anthony Birch. That's it.
Got you, Anthony. Please don't go away.
Anthony Birch tweeted at me. He was like, "I love your game," and I was like, "Oh my god, like, this is real. Like, what is this?" He hasn't figured out that I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah, that's well, very cool, man.
It's been a fun ride. We've been going to PAX for the past 4 years. We'll be there this year at PAX East. So check us out. Stop by the booth.
Cool. Very cool. So James, with Plague TV, you're one of our content creators, so you could tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I think that I think there's a lot behind content creation that can be useful, especially for the indie dev scene. And I think when people think of broadcasters or content creators, so what I did for a while is I helped pair small indie devs that didn't have much of a marketing budget with small and mid-sized broadcasters that wanted some professional experience but weren't large enough to attract large names, and sort of did these short week or 2 week long campaigns on Twitch. And at first it was okay, we're broadcasting a title, and then what I realized is that a lot of broadcasters that are really dedicated to gaming, even though they've never done QA professionally, it turns out they're pretty good guinea pigs for QA work, right? If the UI is very confusing, you kind of have a broadcaster that's like, I don't know how to start the game, right? Because as a dev, you have your head down and you never look up from it. And so we kind of realized that, then you have video content of someone interacting with your product, and it's actually a really neat feedback tool. And then that opened up the door for doing a lot of that stuff off camera. And so that was when I really realized, every broadcaster should play a game for, 20 minutes to an hour before they broadcast it, right? To make sure they can put on an entertaining program. And there have been a lot of times where, developers have sent me copies of games, and I've played them and I said, I can't broadcast this, right? Either it's not polished enough, it's not there, you don't want to put this live, right? It's feedback for the developer, not in a negative way, but yeah, right. And the developer's reactions to that are really interesting. There are some folks that really believe in, the Twitch platform and are pumped to have their game on it, and there are other developers that know they need it and are just horrified because it's out of their control, right? Because they want to have control over how the content's viewed, and you have to let that go to give your IP to somebody else. So it's been a really interesting dynamic, but pairing up with broadcasters that take it seriously, not that they want to be a professional broadcaster, but that they respect the industry and the art and they want to contribute somehow, can be really, really constructive, even off camera, off broadcast for QA stuff, or even a lot of broadcasters have voice acting backgrounds, and a lot of indie devs need voice acting that they don't have to pay an incredible amount for. And you can get that kind of stuff from content creators. So that's the sort of stuff those are all like the little doors that have been opened from trying to run small promotional campaigns for people, but it's been really interesting to interact with the developer side of it as someone who's a non-dev involved with it.
Twitch fascinates me. Twitch is like all those people whose parents told them, "You'll never get anywhere playing video games." Well, they pay my salary now, Mom. What's up? I just think that's great.
Even if it doesn't, like I do it part-time for fun. And I remember back 2 years ago when I started doing it, I was like, if I ever make $1 from playing a video game, like that's just
worth it.
like ridiculous
Worth it.
conception.
Yeah.
But like now that that's happened, you're like, oh wow, this is some magical little universe. But I have no idea what the secret sauce is for what works and what doesn't work on Twitch. Like there are games that just take off ridiculously, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Like why is that so popular all of a sudden? Other games that you think would work that don't. It is really fascinating.
It doesn't feel like anyone's figured that out yet.
No, there's no secret
People
sauce to it.
seem to be trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Even in trying to figure it out, by the time you get like partway down your research, it's already changed again.
Right.
And
Well,
you're
there's
like,
like Doki Doki Literature Club,
Right.
which is like
Oh,
a
yeah.
very dark subject
Yeah.
matter game, but I mean a graphic novel. You're
Yeah.
kind of clicking through, you're playing through a story, and graphic novel type games have been around for a long time. But just for some reason that captured the imagination of the Twitch audience,
Yeah.
and it had this crazy, for a free game on Steam, right? It had
Yeah.
this like ridiculous following for a really, really short window. That's the other thing, is it's so fast.
It's so
right?
fast.
Yeah.
Like that's on fire for
Yeah.
3 weeks, and then
And
it's
then it
like
disappears.
there's no
Gone
channels that
forever.
have it at all
Right.
anymore. It's
And people are just
wild.
finding out about it, and it's
Right.
still not on Twitch.
Yeah.
It's
Specifically, Doki Doki is like,
It's a really cool case study.
you watch someone for 3 hours just so that you can watch the moment where
Yeah.
the shoe drops.
Yes, yes.
And then you're like, okay, I'm checked out. I don't need to watch the rest
Yeah.
of it.
So, like,
Go ahead,
okay.
No, things like Mixer. So there's Twitch
Yeah.
and then Mixer. So if you don't know what Mixer is, it's a smaller platform. It's Microsoft's version of Twitch, basically. They started this thing called Hype Zone for Fortnite.
Mhm.
So if you're in the top 10 or top 20 and you're in a I might win situation, there's a channel that will just rotate to people that are in the top 10 on Mixer. And so you just get the juiciest bits of the content.
It's like
that
Red
channel,
Zone on
it's
a-
like
for
Red Zone.
football,
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
same idea. So that channel will just
Wow.
roam to
Hilarious.
people that are in top 10, top 20 situations, and it's a really interesting engagement. But you're right, things like Doki Doki, like that's what you want to see. You want to see that
Yeah.
tense,
Yeah.
The
The moment where they're like,
round
"No!"
Counter-Strike, right? You want to see
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and the platforms are getting more innovative in how they're putting that in front of the user.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been following Mixer just a little bit because it was Beam, and then
Yep.
Microsoft bought it, and the things that they're doing with it, or they're trying to do some really cool stuff. I think just in the beginning of 2018, they added the purchasing, like you could purchase the game like right underneath, like while you're streaming, and then that's something that Twitch adopted. I think they adopted it, but it
Yeah,
was
Twitch is
much
awesome.
later in their development, and Mixer really picked it back up. Steve, with Sally Face, what's going on with Sally Face?
So Sallyface is a dark adventure game that I started in 2015, kind of working in my free time on it for a while, and then I'm doing it episodically. So once I finished the first episode, I did an Indiegogo to kind of. So 2015, a lot of stuff in my life just started falling apart, and I lost my job and like all this stuff. So it at first started as kind of just a passion project I was going to do. I was like, well, maybe I can make some money off of it and just do this full time. So I did a little Indiegogo, raised some money. Then with the Steam sales, I was able to just continue full time on it. So since then, I've released 2 more episodes. I'm starting on the 4th episode now.
Destiny loves Sally Face.
Yeah.
So like me and Steve have been working on indie games together for a long time. We have a game that we're working on. Shout out to Immure Horror Games. Check it out. Coming out sometime in the future, a long time from now.
When it's done.
Yeah.
Comes out when it's done.
But like every time we take our game somewhere, he has like a little mini like side booth for Sally Face, and there's like at least 3 people that come over and realize he's the guy that made it and freak the hell out. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's gained a nice little following online.
He has fan art.
In big, yeah, fan art cosplay.
That's
It's just
great.
crazy to see.
That's dope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's great. I've always
Yeah.
wanted that.
You
Like
do-
to
you
be able
do,
to
actually.
inspire people like that. To
It's
do that.
an
That's
awesome
awesome,
feeling. It's
man.
like
That's
super
amazing.
humbling.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
people like all over the world dressing up as your
Yeah,
characters. It's
that's
like-
so cool.
It's like crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just want one cosplayer. I see one cosplayer in
Yeah,
my
me
games, and then I've made it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's definitely the streamers like YouTube and stuff on Twitch were a big help in getting it, like just getting the word out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of started like smaller YouTubers were playing it, and then I caught on with the bigger YouTubers. Jacked up, they got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it like a slow ramp up? Or did it take months, or was it sort of?
It took a couple months, but it happened like pretty quick. I was like
Huh.
surprised by like how quickly it happened. I kind of planned, I aligned like green light when green light was still a thing, and my Indiegogo and tried to like hit a big marketing push all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So with all the good things that are going on with, just you guys, and then, like you were saying about all the little, devs in Pittsburgh, like Toaster Pets. I know another shout out for Toaster because I'm super interested in it. There's so many places you can
Please
go with
call
Toaster
in.
Pets.
Toaster Pets.
Right? Like,
we have a number to call in.
like are they or toasters like pets or?
Oh, I brought it. I have it. I'll put it here.
Are you toasting?
Yeah, were you toasting pets?
Hashtag Toaster Pets hype.
Yeah, like
Man, I hope they're not mad.
That was a secret. There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man.
Oh, it's really cute.
They're like cute pets and bread and
Oh.
everything you love.
So you could
I like
you could
bread.
toast your pets, right?
That's morbid.
Do they taste surprised?
They enjoy the
I think they
toast.
are.
But they enjoy it. Yeah.
Unlike the Pop-Tarts, the anamorphic Pop-Tarts, they probably enjoy it.
So does like the panda bear go in the toaster and then come out as like a brown bear or a black bear?
Oh, well, that would be diverse,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
There you go.
Celebrating differences.
Butterbuster attacks.
We're all laughing at a thing that the street
Yeah,
kids
it's-
did.
Michael Sinettling.
So,
Go, Mike, go.
So anyway, hashtag toast your pets. Probably not something we want to endorse. I don't know, but
These are our opinions. Schell Games does not endorse necessarily.
Pet tarts, nice. Well done, Abby. So, how do you guys think we can, encourage this gaming community, in Pittsburgh? Like, what's like? I think doing stuff like this helps. Doing things like BidBridge helps. What else? Like, how can we get game devs together more? How can we get content creators together more that in Pittsburgh, so everybody knows what's kind of going on?
I think this helps, right? Like this, doing this event, like would have known about your game or that you were here in Pittsburgh. We have Twitch streamers here and other indie devs and you guys. So it's like just like a small thing like this is getting that fire starting, I think. And we're talking, right? So it's not like you're just coming to a one-off, showing your game, but maybe you're working your booth and I'm doing mine, so we're not really conversing. So I think this is pretty cool. It's getting the conversation going. Maybe we could try to do more of these and loop in other people too. That'd be great.
And just like with BidBridge too, I mean, there is a Twitch Pittsburgh meetup, and then we have an esports team now too, right? Pittsburgh Knights.
Yeah.
Just started recently. They're actually, I think, already hosted the Twitch Pittsburgh meetup last weekend. So these little
I didn't know
collaborations
that.
between BidBridge and Twitch Pittsburgh, or if it's Knights and you guys, or what we're doing here. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I need to get that information after
Yeah,
this.
definitely. So I think all those little groups that are spread everywhere are starting to kind of make little micro clusters, and so now it's how do we
Actually,
smush them all
the
together.
Knights guys just contacted me.
Really?
And I told them to come to the next BidBridge meeting, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Are they the Linux Lounge? They do Linux
They're
Lounge.
partnering with them, I don't know if they was saying.
So Linux Lounge has hosted us a couple times too. And, they're super nice. They have a nice space. This kind of
What
stuff.
teams do the Knights have now? They lead.
They have
PUBG.
PUBG.
They have PUBG's been really
PUBG.
pushing it now.
They have a Smash player too, melee player.
Nice. I heard they
Yeah.
might have an Overwatch team, but that seems like
No, it's Philly Fusion right now.
Okay.
I think it's just PUBG and
There was a
Smash right now.
rumor on their Twitter where they teased Overwatch.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Oh, wait, no,
I was
Dota team. If you're watching.
making Overwatch team.
Yeah. Go, come on.
Yeah, where's my Dota team?
You're in the back. That's awesome. Do we, so I kept thinking, and I don't know what the West Coast does differently or whatever, right? But it feels like we could certainly get together if we're, I think, collectively we're a big group probably, right? Numbers wise, just in the area, all the devs. But like, could we get together to celebrate the fact that we're all devs and creators and the game industry? Could we all like have like a party
Like a
day or
mixer.
something like that? Not even a mixer, like a party.
Pittsburgh DEF CON.
Celebrate our
Pittsburgh DEF CON.
talents, celebrate our passions, and and then meet. Yeah, I mean, obviously it would be a mixer, right? We're all meeting, we would all be mixing. And it sounds like we have little ones.
Yeah.
But like having one that's just like boom, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
That is another thing I'm gonna make.
There's a great story behind, is it Guardian Con down in Florida, the Destiny community? It kind of started off as a grassroots, like, let's meet up in Florida, then some people from other states started to drive down to it, and then all of a sudden they're raising well over $1 million for charity, like a couple of years later, and it just sort of like accidentally happened, and somebody decided to champion it and went after it.
Yeah.
You know, it's the commonality of them does seem to be that, you know, that was around Destiny, right? Or it's around Twitch, or
Right.
it's around esports, or there's some unifying thing, or it's around game dev, right? Which we have all of those little components,
Right,
for
right.
sure.
Yeah, I talk to people a lot, and I get asked the question of like, where do I connect with the game dev community in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
And I've been pointing people to the IGA chapter,
Yeah.
because I'm relatively out of the loop. Like, I didn't know about BitBridge, so now maybe I'll point people there. But like, if there was one central, like there's all these little initiatives, and they need, in some ways, they need to be focused or do their own thing. But having at least even a website that connects them all.
We need one like calendar website or one event website or something.
And then maybe throws the big party.
Wait, did he just say BitBridge them all together?
Yeah, it's because it's interesting. I've gone to a couple of groups now that like have their own thing going on, where it's like, okay, you guys are like meeting up and hanging out. You don't want to like break that and be like, you should assimilate into our bigger group. You want to be able to say like, hey, if you're interested, like coming out every once in a while and like hanging out with more people, feel free to do that, but without like breaking up the communities that already exist. Yeah, it's a really interesting problem, and I don't know, maybe there is a like one place that everyone goes, or maybe there's like you're saying, one calendar website or one Twitter. It's like this is the place to figure it all out. I don't know what that would be though.
I feel like getting devs together is a little like herding cats. Like it's
Oh yeah.
we all kind of like. I like game jams a lot. I'm really sad that I missed out on the Global Game Jam this year because all of my closest dev friends I think I've met through game jams. And I think that like when you collaborate with someone, you learn a lot about them in a very short amount of time. You learn how they work. You learn sort of what their focus is, what they're good at, what they're not good at. And so like I feel like you develop a really pretty strong relationship over the course of a few days making a game with someone.
Join my team next year.
I will.
Yay!
Very cool. So I know. Well, so James, you were talking about that group in Destiny. We're gonna say Destiny.
Destiny.
Yeah. So, are there any other communities or cities that are struggling with the same thing as Pittsburgh, like getting these different pockets and trying to figure something out that we can try to emulate or to get feedback from, or what's working well or not working well there? What do you guys know of?
I mean, at least in the Twitch universe, some cities have very, very strong Twitch meetups. Like Twitch Chicago is huge, and that's all grassroots organized, right? Twitch doesn't fund that stuff at all. You sign a contract with them and you can use their logos and that kind of stuff, but then it's up to somebody to champion it. But they've been sponsored by developers before. The Twitch meetups have been sponsored by pretty large companies, and they're self-funding at this point. DC is trying to get something going now. Vancouver has a really strong meetup scene. So it's interesting the cities that it works in really, really well, like almost automatically, and the ones that doesn't. And I haven't been able to get my head around the Pittsburgh scene yet. I've always believed it's a really underserved market in terms of the amount of people here that are into gaming in general, right? Not having the aggregator here for it.
Do you think we're more fragmented than the average city?
I don't know.
Because I guess,
Sure.
assume, like, you have the college kids that will play in the stream, and then you'll be isolated, and you have, like, there's LFG and BP, and, like, the local sort of arcade places that stream, but there's no connection between the two. Like,
Yeah, and I would say even among the streamers in Pittsburgh, we're isolated from each other.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of know who they are, but, like, I mean, even the Twitch Pittsburgh meetup is very, very small compared to some of the other ones that I've been to. And I can't quite totally get my head around why that is.
There's too many bridges and tunnels.
Yeah.
It's
like hotels, that's like.
Pittsburgh joke.
Classic Pittsburgh joke.
I mean,
I don't know. It's the other side of the river. I don't see
Yeah,
it.
that place exists.
Like across the bridges.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
It's very weird.
Wait, you say Pittsburghers don't like to cross the bridges?
No, that's
That's a true thing.
It's like medical officers in Star Trek that don't like to use the transporter.
Yeah.
It's like that, exactly.
It makes sense.
Nerd over here.
What do they
Is that a
usually?
space show?
Space show, yeah, I think so.
What is
Some space show.
May the force be with you.
What do you usually do at Twitch meetups?
Drink and hang out.
Nice.
And I think that's the best thing I've ever seen. I mean, we were just
Yeah.
talking about the convention scene, like
Totally.
putting faces to people that you read about, right? Like I think that a lot of broadcasters get really excited to meet game developers because a lot of broadcasters are kind of like isolated in their houses all the time, like don't see, real world humans. And so putting names to faces, it makes it more real and it makes that connection stronger. Then they become your friends, right? Then you want to go see them again and drink and hang out or whatever. And the bond
You
is-
see them next time, and you're like, hey, I remember
For
you.
the same reason that the game jam scene works too, right? You spend that whole period of time with somebody that close to them. It's magical.
Being creative too.
Being creative.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh chapter of the IGDA, we did have a First Thursday thing.
Don't
I
talk
guess
about
it's
me.
too hard to say. We did have a First Thursday thing where like we would get together and drink and hang out.
Yeah.
And that went for about a year, but then attendance petered off. I mean, maybe it's just like you just need that one central point of disseminating.
It's hard to get the word out. It's
yeah,
hard.
it is. It's hard to get the word out.
It's hard. It's also like, particularly for those of us who are older and have children, like all of a sudden, like having even a monthly thing like becomes another thing to juggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to blame the kids, but like,
I'll blame your kids for
Yeah.
it.
It's your kids' fault.
sorry guys.
Yeah, I remember when at the thing yesterday, the Uprise event, like a couple of people I talked to were like, "Oh my God, there's daycare!" Yes.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they had provided here's where bring your kids and they can hang out together while you guys network. Like
Who promoted that one now?
there was an event yesterday for the Uprise prize, and it's a whole thing. It's
What's up, prize?
it was an event, or you actually have a better. You were also there. You have a better spiel than I do. Mine is kind of half complete because I just showed up. What's the spiel?
Well, so the uprise is it's the Forbes funds and a couple of other organizations got together to fund basically a entrepreneurial startup competition with an aim for either nonprofits or companies that serve nonprofits. So it's sort of trying to bring an entrepreneurial kind of startup competition to nonprofit services. But actually, I don't want to forget the point that you were going for originally, which is they had childcare there, which is another Pittsburgh company called Flexible that tries to provide childcare in flexible ways, so that you can, so they like sort of ad hoc, one-off childcare. So if you're running an event, and you need and you want people to be able to come who have kids, then you can hire them to do the childcare and yeah, so they're pretty cool. And so people are actually thinking about this problem.
That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody who was like, yeah, I had 3 different events that I could have gone to, and on the email it said, this one has childcare. I'm going to that one.
Yeah. So who won the prize?
I don't know.
Okay, because I think I saw something about like Prototype Pittsburgh or something. Was that the same event?
Oh,
or
no,
is
that was the
something different?
Google Impact Challenge.
That's what it. Okay.
Yeah. So there were a handful that just won those, and actually now I think they're going to like a People's Choice, where someone gets an extra 50,000
Cool.
for that one. But yeah, Uprise, it's in its 3rd year, and so they're just kicking that off. That was the event the other night.
Gotcha.
I've become a meme in the chat.
Yeah.
He's snack. He attack.
He'd be looking like a snack. Give me the wings. Yeah, so in case you don't see, I don't think you came up on the camera. We got a bunch of delicious food from Lulu's Noodles. So it's a nice local place in Pittsburgh. Some Thai cuisine. Thai curry, chicken, General Tso's, teriyaki wings, sweet chili wings. So we got a little bit of everything. It's a very tasty.
You pronounced that wrong. It's not wings. It's wangs.
Wangs, my bad. Dingo bum crush. Yeah, wangs.
Six S's.
Six, yeah, wangs. Well, cool. Oh, cool. So if So I guess we can continue with the game dev scene question. What do you think, I guess besides consistency, what do you think the game dev scene in Pittsburgh is missing?
A con.
A con?
Yeah, of sorts. Like a gaming focus con. And
Doesn't Replay affect the game?
There's no games. We were the only game there last year.
It's arcade.
Retro.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
the con here is like a little game jam for
Yeah.
the most part. Like that's the only time I see everyone.
Yeah. And Pittsburgh Retro Gaming Con is sort of getting there. I think it probably will be. This year it's 2 days. So they've been doing it every year for 3 years now, I think. And might have done it twice last year. But yeah, it's 2 days this year. And they had indie games last year. We were there and a bunch of other games. And we're going to be there again this year. So I think if they keep doing that and every year we kind of pile up more and more indie devs, I think that'll start to get like a gaming event that people can go to now. And they're going to start learning about all this stuff. But until that takes off, I think that's like the thing we're missing. It's just like a central place.
Probably. So what else? What do you guys think?
Morning. I don't know. I think that I'm starting to get that fixed a little bit from Bitbridge, which is nice. But there's so many other people around, and I want to hang out with them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sort of relating, is when you go to Bitbridge now, I went to a couple meetings and it was very developer centric, where it's like, this is my game, we're working on it, I'm looking for criticism, which was nice, but like it's kind of stressful.
Yeah.
And I sort of want I just want to meet developers and not talk about our game.
You're not allowed to show off your stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's yeah. So
That is excellent feedback.
I think it's really powerful. I mean, even turning back to the PAX scene, right? When you're at, if it's PAX East or PAX South, I mean, people are doing what they're doing on the convention floor, but at least the broadcast community, when they go out, it's just time to like not talk about being live broadcasting. It's the last thing that anybody wants to discuss, and especially the partners that do it full time. Like, I mean, TK Breezy, who's a Super Smash Bros. Commentator, he's always like, don't talk to me about Smash. Smash, like, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I did that all day today. We're not talking about it. So I'm definitely a big advocate of that.
Yeah, that happened to GDC a lot. I'd run into people and be like, hey, you want to talk about stuff? And I'm like, anything but games.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your dog? Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about my dog.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe you need one on, one off. Like now, this month we talk about our games. Next month we just drink. Next
Yeah.
month,
I like that idea.
We do
Yeah.
have topics for when we meet, so it's like, this one could be about whatever, planning ahead, or this one's about show off your game.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It would be good to do some beer ones, but the problem is there's also like underage.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about doing like an hour, like this next meeting, we're gonna do an hour of showing off games and then an hour of like, let's go get coffee or food
Yeah.
or something, so.
Sure.
That's cool.
Remember, Sean, we did the lightning talks for IGD a while ago, like years and years ago now, and they were like really varied topics in a way that
Yeah.
was like super pleasant. Like I think you talked about, I remember like building a Ninja Warrior course.
I have spoken about building Ninja Warrior courses. You can go to seanpatton.com, see all my lightning talk slides. But so lightning talks, for those of you who don't know, are basically you have an event where anyone can give a talk about anything, but it's only 5 minutes. And so basically for the people watching them, if it's interesting, you can talk to them afterwards. And if it's not interesting, it's only 5 minutes, right? And so we would have really varied topics, like you said. So if people, I think Marlena actually expressed interest in helping organize the next lightning talk. So let this be the reveal that there will be lightning talks at some point.
Breaking news.
Go to pigda.org to learn more about it.
Now I'm committed.
I have publicly committed you. Sorry. But yeah, no, I think that sort of thing is definitely fun, right? Because then you not only do you get to meet people in a social setting, but you can also learn new things, which is always fun. Yeah.
Where's this happening?
What's that?
Where's this happening at?
Where's that? In Pittsburgh. It's happening in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Somewhere in Pittsburgh.
Somewhere in Pittsburgh. You might have to travel through a bridge and or a
Never
tunnel.
mind.
It's happening everywhere in Pittsburgh. Wherever you are, that's where it's
Will we
happening.
renting a river barge?
There you go. There you go. We'll get it out there.
Yeah. Getting around the bridges that way.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just can't be late, because otherwise we'll leave that.
Right. Gonna do a DEF CON on the Clipper.
Yeah, the Clipper.
Yeah. Floating DEF CON.
Oh, man.
You have a Discord?
What's that?
Stevie, you all right?
Chad thinks you're depressed.
Yeah.
Everyone in your Discord says you're depressed.
Cool, so they got a chat in the Discord.
That is a good point, Lonely Heart.
Oh, that's funny.
Food first, then Schell Games.
Dinner would bring people together. Well, look what we're doing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Case in point.
Free
That's-
food will always get me anywhere.
Yeah, ours will be free though, so.
Oh, well. Then forget about it. I'm out.
Wait. No, not until, we gotta get some grants.
Yeah,
That's what
we
we gotta
need
do.
money.
Grants.
Grants for food.
Grants for food.
Classic government alcohol and food grant.
Yeah, the classic. Yeah, who knows? I think one of our consistent suggestions for this stream is to bring in some beer, so we might try to do that sometime soon. Try to get that pushed through.
This is vodka. I don't know.
Sorry.
You guys should have gone for the waters.
That was the plan. Well, very cool. So one thing I like to ask for every stream is just what your favorite game is right now, or what game you're playing right now. Who would like to start us off? It could be your own game if you have to.
But, do that.
Yeah,
do
that's
that
backwards.
in your. Don't do it in front of people, right? That's like,
Yeah.
Don't play your own game in front of. Every time I boot up my own game, my roommate's like, "Oh, gotta go upstairs." Don't do that in the living room. Come on. Yeah.
Are you playing your own game?
I don't know.
Who'd like to start us off?
I'm playing Breath of the Wild. I'm a little bit behind the curve on that one, but I'm enjoying it a lot. 'Cause
It's great.
game.
Super good. Such good.
I got the Sprint Vector for Oculus.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Sprint
And I
Vector.
get to learn how out of shape I am. Yeah,
I run 2 races and I'm like, all right, that's enough for me.
I think you're dripping gets it off. That's great.
Okay.
You run in place in that game? Like, how does that work?
You kind of ski, like you squeeze and you pull a hand down, and you have to like run, and you can jump, and you can drift around corners.
It's pretty sweet.
It's really
It would
good.
make me vomit, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. If you're
Almost
you get that
certainly.
dripping
Sweat and vomit.
Yeah.
It's multiplayer, so you should get it. So we should play.
It's multiplayer.
So Tyler could be sprinting while Dole's just sweating and vomiting.
So no, I played online. I need someone to beat. Everyone else that's
Alright,
played
you
is
can
way
beat.
better than me. It's super bad. I'm laughing and puffing, and Shat gives me heavy breathing into my headset.
So wait, they're just better than you? Like, how long have you played?
I played for like 6 hours, and they've obviously played for like 40.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess I need a room microphone because it's so embarrassing.
Wow.
You need to record a track of you breathing evenly and then just broadcast that instead, so it makes you
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like I'm not even winded, bro. What's up?
This is easy.
Listen to my deep breaths.
This is nothing. Now, I've been seeing a lot of people play Sprint Vector. It looks like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess that, and I found Eco. I was playing Eco, ECO.
No.
Echo the Dolphin?
Yeah.
Classic Dreamcast. I picked up the Dreamcast.
Same answer.
It's just a like Minecraft-ish game with economy simulators that are really, really deep. Like you eat food and burn calories for experience, and how nutritional your food is. Like it goes far. But I've been obsessed with that lately.
It's a rabbit hole.
So my arms are tired.
Is that the Strange Loop games? Is that the,
No, they were funded by Graham. They're like, the world is getting destroyed by a meteor and you have to work together to stop it. There's no combat, and it's very like, you know, to save the planet and the environment of the planet. So they got, I think, federal funding to create the game. But yeah, it's super cool.
Is it the one that takes place like? I mean, it's designed for like a classroom setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, they have teaching tools on a website and stuff, and yeah. I mean, all I've seen it used for is not very educational. It's like people set up prisons and they lock you in prison. Yeah.
I'll jump in with Subnautica. Subnautica's been awesome. I've had to get lost in Subnautica for hours on
Tired
it.
bunny.
Incredible.
Bunny over here.
Becky Sister blew up on Twitch too.
Subnautica.
Yeah, Subnautica. I remember hearing
it's
from
really compelling. The environment's really compelling.
Yeah.
Like it's in the game's progression mechanics are really, really subtle. because you're out in an ocean environment, right? And so depth is the natural progression mechanic where you keep needing to go deeper and deeper to advance in the game. You're not really thinking about it as a progression mechanic, but like you have to upgrade your sub, then you can go 100 meters deeper and you're a little closer where you need to be. And so it kind of keeps egging you on, but then your risk gets higher as you go deeper too, and so it becomes more stressful. It's really, really well designed.
Yeah, watching that sort of blossom from, that was like natural selection too.
It's great.
And then there was like a tiny little project, like an experiment at Unknown World, and then it blew up into the
Yeah.
game. That's like their primary title now.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. Bendy and the Ink Machine is another one.
Yeah.
Really wild artwork too.
Yeah, that game looks cool.
They're
My daughter's
teasing-
really into that.
Yeah, they're teasing chapter 4 right now on their
Nice.
Twitter.
Oh, what's the name of it?
Bendy and the Ink Machine.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of have like a Walt Disney-esque character, but your character was like an animator that used to work for him and is invited back to the studio like 10 plus years later, but then the entire like universe is in that cartoon artwork style, and you're like kind of in a horror environment walking through it. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Good psychological horror title.
Yeah, executed very well.
I've been playing.
Bendy and the Ink Machine.
I've been playing a lot of Enter the Gungeon lately,
Mhm.
and Dead Cells, both
Okay.
games
Love Dead Cells.
that I love. Not just because they're in the vein of the game that I'm making, in that they're roguelikes. I'm terrible at both of them. That's the one thing about games is I love games. I'm also very bad at games. Still have not beaten either of those, but I'm working on it.
Enter the Gungeon's really hard.
It's
so hard!
I played a ton of Binding of Isaac, like a lot,
Mhm.
and I've
Gungeon's
like
so
played.
hard.
It's way harder than
Yeah.
than Binding of Isaac. Enter the Gungeon is hard. Dead Cells is fun, but it ramps up.
Yeah.
Like really, you're like, oh, this is a great run. I'm dead. Okay. No. This is great, and it just like hits you really hard.
Dead Cells has a
Dead Cells
flow.
is so
it's just
smooth. Though.
magic.
It is. It's the smoothest game.
Yeah, it's great.
That's really impressive. Dead Cells.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to Getting Over It with Minute Body. The best game ever.
Because you hate yourself.
I love
Yes.
that game so much.
I also hate myself, which is why I also played Getting Over It with Them.
Been there.
There's something pure about it.
There is.
I'm playing Monster Hunter World. I'm one of
Nice.
those.
I've heard about that.
Oh, so this is the first Monster Hunter I've ever got into. Like I bounced off of, I think it was Monster Hunter, the PSP one a while ago, or maybe it was Vita. But it was I played one of the older ones and I just bounced hard. Like I was just like, this is really complex and I don't know what to do. Like, and what am I supposed to do? And I'd go out and the monster would just run away from me and I'm like, wait. And then like, I'd run out of time and I'm like, this is the game? You know, and then Monster Hunter World, I played the beta and I was just like it hit me right in the face, like, this is brilliant. And I've been playing it since. So like, it's just so good.
I'm holding out for the PC release.
Oh,
But I definitely
man.
can't wait to pick it up.
Are you excited for Dauntless?
Yeah, I actually
In the same
tried.
vein as-
Yeah, I tried Dauntless a little bit, and I liked what they were doing.
Yeah.
Right, it was before I thought I would be into Monster Hunter World. Like, so
Okay.
before I played the beta for Monster Hunter, I played Dauntless, and I was like,
Yeah.
this looks really cool. But then I had, they're still developing it. So,
Right.
So I hope that, and from what I've heard, I have a coworker here who's still kind of following it like really closely, and it sounds like. I hope what they figure out is the way to differentiate themselves a little bit,
Right.
To make themselves a little more unique from Monster Hunter, so
Sure.
that they can like really be standalone, so they can stand on their own
Right,
feet,
right.
and not like just get swallowed by Monster
Don't
Hunter.
be the copy, right?
Yeah.
Or get
Yeah.
perceived as the
Or-
copy.
yeah,
or
if you're perceived
even if
as
you
the
aren't,
copy.
which is the
Right,
problem. Yeah.
Right, because I don't want that for them, because it was fun when I played it. So yeah, I hope that picks up. And then my daughter and I played A Hat in Time.
Yeah, I've
which was
heard great things.
that game is. She just thought it was cute, right? She saw it, she's like, "This is cute," and I was like, "This looks cool." And we both played it, and I was like, "This was fun.
Yeah,
it was
it's
a
great.
really cool game, like clearly inspired by Wind Waker
Yeah.
and Mario
It
64
reminds me of like Banjo-Kazooie,
and
like the whole
Banjo-Kazooie,
rare
right.
collectathon style.
Yeah, totally. Yep. And but a cool game by like indie like passionate developers, new characters. Like and I always go on record saying this, and people hate me for it, but I'm very tired of Zelda and I'm very tired of Mario.
Amen.
Very,
Yeah.
very tired. So when I see things, even if they're inspired by them, like I'm down with. I respect them.
Yeah.
Like I played them too. But like I just don't want to be Mario
It's time for
anymore.
some time for some new
Yeah,
IP,
can I
yeah.
just get someone new? And I'm like, oh look, new characters. Like
Yeah.
this little girl with a hat, and she's in a spaceship, and she flies around, and she collects little, little things of time, and they fly. I'm like, this story's new.
We need more Pikmin, right? More things
Yeah,
like
it's
Pikmin.
new.
There was this new at the time. It was
So Hat in
this-
Time is just like, it's juicy
Yeah.
and it's rich and it's fun and it's And so I really appreciate that game. That game is really cool. Definitely recommend playing it. Lots of silly little fun characters, good music, and it's just classic 3D platforming. You know, double jumping, sliding, stuff like that. So yeah, that game's really awesome. Really enjoyed that game.
I've been recently playing Wind Waker for the first time. I had never played it like way back in the day, and so I don't know. I got to the part. The dungeons are great. Love the dungeons. I got to the part where they're like, all right, go collect the 8 pieces of Triforce. And I went on the Google. I'm like, well, what do I do? They're like, you just gotta go find them.
Oh,
and I'm like,
I'm sorry.
All right, this is where the game ends for me. I don't care enough.
I did that too. Sail around the world. Yeah, that.
I just spent the last 16 hours sailing around the world.
Have you found the big empty islands yet? There's rumors, I guess, of production of like in this period in the game there were dungeons. And they're like, oh, we don't have enough time to finish these, so they just like cut them out so there'll just be an island that's empty. So they finally like try for a shard, I guess.
That's hilarious.
It's very funny.
That's funny.
Which way is the snake going? I got lost.
Oh, the snake. I just started talking.
Yeah.
You were the snake.
So yeah, go for it, Sarah.
Okay. I've been going through a backlog of games, so I've been playing a lot of old Resident Evil games that I never finished. And then any 3DS game my nephew will play with me. So I've got like Ultra Moon and Mario Maker and all these things. Anything that we can play together is
Very cool.
on my current roster.
What RE are you playing?
Hmm?
What Resident Evil are you playing right now?
Revelations.
Nice.
I screamed at the rats coming out of the electrical box. I called it too. My roommate was watching me and I'm like, I'm gonna scream, something's gonna pop out, and I'm just gonna scream. It happened, and then I fell over laughing.
What platform are you playing on? Are you playing
PS3.
on? PS3, okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm playing on too. I actually really like that game. I still haven't played the second one. I have it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, it's on my
Yep. on
list
YouTube.
of things.
Yeah.
Very cool. What else is in your backlog?
Finishing all the Dead Spaces. I've played them all, but never
Good.
finished them.
Good games.
I still have to finish Ocarina of Time. No one hit me with something.
It's okay. I've never played Ocarina of Time.
I play really far into it, and then something happens, and I have to stop. And when I come back to it, I'm like, might as well just start over. And I've done that about 6 times now. So, maybe this summer.
What's the game you're anticipating most, and why is it Kingdom Hearts 3? Play that game.
Recently, the timeline of Kingdom Hearts got there was a thread at work about about it, and that timeline images. Like I don't know if you've seen those timeline images, but the Kingdom Hearts timeline is bonkers. Like in just watching, it was basically just almost like a family tree. It's insane. I've only played Kingdom Hearts. I played Kingdom Hearts 1 all the way through, and then I played the beginning of 2, and I kind of got tired of Kingdom Hearts after because I was just like, more world. But looking at that kind of rejuvenated just an interest for a speck of time. Just looking at that timeline, it's bonkers. Like I definitely recommend just going to look that up because it's insane.
I've only ever played the console version, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to watch the hour and 20-minute YouTube video that recaps all the other games before I play the game.
Yeah.
There was one that got sent around that was quite literally a YouTube video that was 15 minutes long and flashing up images of each of the characters. And the commentary was, so this guy's mad at this guy because this guy kissed this girl and was mad at this guy for doing this thing. And that was it went for 15 minutes. And apparently it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, no, that's all I know about Kingdom Hearts is from that video.
But what games are you playing, Sean?
I am so talking about the when you don't want to talk about video games. I've been playing board games, so like Gem, which is a great little game I carry in my pocket right here.
Nice.
This guy Chris Handy, man, he made like 16 of these little games.
Okay.
They all have 3 letters, and they're all super fun to play. You can just carry them. They're handy games. I did show the camera. I showed it twice.
That's a pack of bubblegum.
Yes, that is a pack of bubblegum.
Yeah. So it's like, Gem. So there's like Gem, Jim, Zip, Zap, Run, Rum.
Keys.
Yeah, they're all 3-letter words. They're all 3-letter words. You can get them at Games Unlimited over in Squirrel Hill, and they're excellent. I also DM'd Dungeon Master, mastered for the first time recently, so that was quite exciting.
That's cool.
I DM as well. It's a fun experience.
It was awesome. I was flying by the seat of my pants, but it was super fun.
Mhm.
Shout out to Ragweed Bullwinkle, one of my favorite NPCs ever. But yeah, no, so video games, I have not actually been playing that many video games lately. It's true. It's a true story.
Been in that boat too. Been playing a lot of board games.
Mhm.
Going to Gloomhaven a couple
Gloomhaven's
times.
good, yeah.
Actually, I don't like it.
Really?
I'm gonna say that. I know people love that game.
Mm-hmm.
Not for me. I think combat feels too like kind of random.
Sure.
And, like everybody but the guy who bought it was pissed at the game.
Oh, that's
I
not
assume
good.
he likes it because it cost him $250.
Sweet. If he doesn't like it, he's gonna damn well convince himself.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
gonna
totally.
justify
Yes.
that price tag.
Some cost fallacy right there.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen that box is huge.
Oh,
It's
it's
like,
huge.
it's
Oh, it's
like
massive.
this big.
And there's a company that makes inserts for games, and he just bought that for like $150 or something. Like,
Yeah.
That's a market now. Like they just make inserts.
Nice.
I love the Dark Souls board game because I bought it, so I have to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the minis are worth it for me. The minis are
I hear that
great.
game's actually pretty good. though.
It's fun.
I like to play it.
Mhm.
I played Secret Hitler for the first time.
Secret
It's a great
last
game.
week,
Love
and
Secret
that was
Hitler.
awesome.
Secret Hitler is so much fun.
And, yeah, Secret Hitler. It's great.
Yeah. We were we at PAX?
Yeah, we were packed.
Yeah, we were at PAX and we played Secret Hitler all night. Literally, we got there.
We have to demo tomorrow. It's like just one more game.
Just one more game. and then we looked out, it's like, it's 5 o'clock. we should get some sleep. We're on the show floor in 3 hours. Yeah, that was, I recently played, similar vein, played Exploding Kittens.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's fun.
That's
Actually,
pretty
we play at
good.
the office sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah, I'll let you know.
See, you let me know.
I'll let you know.
You see, the marketing guys, we're down there, and
In your little hole.
It's too much, guys.
That's right. We don't get called out to play, so whatever.
I recently got Scythe for Christmas, and I took that, played it with like 4 of my friends, and a week later, all of them had their own copies of Scythe.
Really?
What is it? What is that?
Scythe is it's a bit of a territory control game. It's like you have these combat mechs, and you're controlling like a faction. There's a surprising amount of narrative and world building built into this game about sort of conquest. There's not really a lot of combat. It's more the looming threat of combat that's more interesting. There's just a lot of really cool win conditions and paths to victory, and yeah, it's a deep game, not super hard I think to pick up, but really hard to master, which I think is ideal for games.
Very cool.
You want to be able to teach the game in like 15 minutes, and then spend the next 80 hours trying to perfect your strategy.
So it was easy to get into because I was looking at it. I was gonna pick it up a couple months ago, but it's like everyone has their own little board plus the
All the
board.
mechs are different.
Yeah.
All the colored mechs are
I was
different.
like, my friends don't. They're not gonna like this game.
I play a lot of Star Realms. Love Star Realms. Anybody?
Okay.
Star
Yeah.
Realms. That's I'm kind of obsessed with it at the moment. It's like a dueling deck building game. So there's a really good phone app for it that I play all the time.
Sweet.
Evan, what are you playing?
So I, at this point, play games from years ago. So I'm right now playing Papers, Please. Which is, maybe I don't know if enjoyable is the right word, but I'm I'm finding value in it for sure. And then some old ones on the phone, just more for reference, like Tiny Tower, Tiny Wings just popped back up in my rotation. And then I also am playing a lot of board games, mostly kids board games. Potion Explosion I have enjoyed a lot. I recommend that if you have kids. It's a good one.
What if you don't have kids but like potions?
It's pretty good.
Turned into a drinking game.
I was gonna say, bring some sort of extra
Your own potions.
and yeah,
BYO
really
potion.
good. I brought it into the office to
Yeah,
play,
yeah.
and people seem to like it. So
Cool. Papers, Please is it's a part of this collection of media that I have reserved that is I know I need to play this or watch this this War of Mine or Handmaid's Tale, where I'm I want to consume this media, but it's so hard because it's so depressing. It's so depressing.
So there are a couple more people who we need to talk about their favorite game, but we just get a question. Somebody is new. I think it's Jacob. If you want to scroll back up just a little. Oh, yeah, Jacob. He said that he is new to game development and wants to know what type of resources are out there that you guys would recommend.
1-3 art of game design.
One, two. So what do you guys recommend?
Extra Credits is really fun. If you haven't heard of it, short videos that pick a topic and go in depth and do a very good job of explaining a game design topic. They're really fun. I like them a lot. They're pretty popular. And then if you are developing games, if you aren't already using Unity, use Unity. Or if you're developing video games specifically. If you're not developing video games, don't use Unity. But if you are, use Unity, and their tutorials are pretty excellent. I don't know what stage of learning about game dev you're at, so I'm starting with the earliest one.
Yeah, Extra Credits is great. There's a subreddit called Game Dev Classifieds that I get a lot of work from, surprisingly. It's where I got hired to work on 20XX. There's a lot of companies there that are just hobby projects that are looking for people to tack onto that would be great for people that are just getting into it, that like don't really have the skills to be like at a paid position but still want to like contribute. So you can, get on board a team and see what happens there.
Cool.
It's a nice jumping point, I think.
Yeah, there's also people in Pittsburgh that are doing it right. So if you want to come to a BitBridge event,
Yeah.
meet
talk to
some
us.
local devs, and maybe they can help you too, depending on if you want to do art or the programming side or whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah, Baron did our Baron.
Thanks, Baron.
Yeah, we appreciate you every month, man. So yeah, he plugged it for us. Any other resources that you guys like to use?
GDC, you have to pay for their vault, but they do have a lot of their videos online.
Yeah, their YouTube is really good.
There's plenty of free GDC talks that are definitely worth checking out.
I think it depends too. A lot of people I know have gotten started, but even less academic tools like the Skyrim Creation Kit, or like any sort of mod tools for a game. So you don't have to build the code or the assets. You just kind of world build them. That stuff's great if you're an early start.
I agree.
I don't know where they are in the pipeline, so I don't want to recommend like Unreal or something.
Like Unreal Engine too, right? Because
Yeah, Blueprint's pretty easy.
you can start off with something that works,
Yeah.
which is like half the
But
90% of the battle. So
It will look awesome in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it'll break for 4 hours.
I know her.
It's always easier to modify something that works than to start from scratch, right? So like find a thing and mod it, or find an example and then change it. Like I want that to shoot blue things instead of red things.
If there's a game that you really enjoy, dig and see if there's a modding community and join it, because not only will you learn, you'll be able to like kind of hone your development skills, whatever your focus wants to be, but you'll also already be passionate about the game itself. So you'll have a little bit of extra motivation to keep going. You'll have source material, because that's tough, right? Sometimes, there's times when even I have like just time to work on something that's my own thing, and I'm like, what do I want to do?
First create the world, and then
I gotta make dinner.
Yeah.
So like, sometimes it's like you just jump right back in the the world that already exists, and you can keep going. So
Go to a game jam.
yeah.
If you're looking to get into game design, go to a global game jam.
Yeah,
It's the most productive weekend you will ever have. You'll be hungry for more. Then 3 years later, when you do games all the time, you'll be like, why would I spend my weekend making games? But you'll still go.
Yeah, you still go. I know. I've been privileged to go to all of the global game jams so far, all 10, and it's been super fun every time. But I highly recommend sleeping the first night.
What about the second night?
Second
Screw
night,
that.
get at least 1 hour.
What are you, an amateur?
Get at least 1 hour the second night.
I've never gone.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
It's
So
really
good.
fun. You should stop by and like at least play the games at the end.
You sleep on a lot of office floors, but that's a fun time.
You get Chipotle for a whole weekend.
Yeah.
You like
Oh,
that?
I'm sure that's.
Yeah, the ticket for Game Jam is cheaper than the food you eat. You get
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
you want
yeah.
a free weekend of food.
Yeah.
They always do that.
Yeah, you don't even have to make a game. You just
It's probably true. You just walk around.
So, before we answer Tyree Bunny's question about how do you promote yourself out there about your game, I do want to talk about how, or James, you could talk about how would people get started if they're not developing games. Maybe they want to look at content creation,
Sure.
right? How could somebody get started in that?
And I think content creation is actually a great window to get involved in game design too. I mean, I've learned more about game development in the last 2 years than I ever thought that I would, just from touching people's games and being like, this UI doesn't make sense, right? And they'll be like, oh, this is why we did it this way, and this is why it's structured that way. There's always a reason for it, right? Is the other thing that I've learned, that it's designed that way for a reason, and it might not be the best reason ever. But I've learned a lot about it from that. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent. What was the initial question? Oh yeah, how do you get into content creation? I mean, it's a golden era for content creation in that it's cheaper than ever and more accessible than ever to just start doing it. And I feel like a lot of people watch the big YouTubers in the world, or the big Twitch people of the world, and think, oh, I need to have the highest production quality day one, right? I need to have a green screen and a camera and whatever, and you don't. Right, just start doing it, and I would say actually don't invest that kind of money into it until you know you like it and you're doing it consistently. Then it really becomes something that you enjoy, because to do it consistently, right, especially if you're working a day job, you're going to be putting in another 25 hours a week to consistently produce content probably. So yeah, you've got to make sure you love it before you invest a lot of money in for it, but get after it really. And it opens a lot of other weird, just super duper strange doors. For you, and so if you're interested in game design, I would actually say start promoting yourself on Twitter and start producing content of games that you like from developers you like, and then all of a sudden you're able to email a developer, meet them at a convention, and say, oh, I stream your game, blah blah blah. You start a dialogue there, and I've never met a game developer that wasn't excited to help you if you wanted to learn more about their game or how it was designed or game design in general. It's a really really welcoming community of humans. I've noticed, globally, anywhere I've been, that game development is happening. So
a few years ago, I had to do fire effects, and I had never done fire before, like in Flash or anything. And I emailed a French developer who was working on Rayman Origins, because they have gorgeous fire.
yeah,
And I was like, I love your FX work. Like, is there any way I can see it up close? And he sent me a Flash file that I could pick apart and go frame by frame, and it was ridiculous.
That's
like
cool.
The community is, they're great. They love making games, and they want you to love making games, and they want to help you love making games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we had a coworker here who really enjoyed Twitch for Bloodborne and Dark Souls specifically, and did it for fun and had a small group of people that became a bigger group of people that became a bigger group of people, and suddenly there were 200 people watching him just because he was so consistent about it. And then he was like, oh man, this is too much, never mind. But it sounds like the thing that you have been talking about is consistency, and getting
really important.
Yeah, getting into there and like you said, making sure that you like it, and being able to say yeah, if I really like this, going back. Same thing with game design too, keep going back, and even if you're I don't really want to do it today, just sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and see if you can get yourself back into the mindset, because very often you will, and then you're like, oh man, it's been 6 hours. This was great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Anything else before we switch to the other question?
Real quick on the game design thing. I was
Yes,
gonna
go
say,
for it.
don't sit down and try to make a game today. Try to make something work. Make a character move forward. Okay, now I'm gonna work on a character jumping, or 2 boxes colliding and do a collision detection. Just little features, I think, and then doing all that stuff. Eventually, you'll learn enough that now you can make a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So break it down to small pieces, work on this first, and then eventually try to do a big game.
Somewhere between that and making your own game, I would also suggest make a classic again. Make Snake, or Asteroids, or what's the one where you're a ship at the bottom and you're shooting at the top. I don't know. Missiles, whatever. Yeah, any of those games.
Any one of those three, yeah.
What is this?
Space Invaders. Yeah.
Yeah,
Centipede was
that's very often in university classes, very often a first project or a second project will be remake a famous game here. And it's also a very common programming test for interviews. They'll say, hey, could you make this, and then tell us about how you did it, and we'll look at your code. So that is absolutely a really good way to get in there, and then be like, oh man, now I've made Breakout, let's do something more interesting with it. Let's make everything explode, every time you hit brick, it explodes into 5 more balls. and now it's like fills the screen, or whatever you want to do.
There's a great talk by one of the guys who did Nuclear Throne. What's it called? It's called like Juiciness in a Game Feel. It's about game feel. Just search talk about game feel. You'll find this guy who did Nuclear Throne, who goes through like a little project and like 40 different things, really simple things he does to make the game feel better to play, and it's fascinating to watch. Super, super helpful.
Okay, so yeah, we're getting some more questions coming in. So from Tired Bunny, how do you promote yourself about your games? Who would like to take that?
Go to conferences, right? Like for the indie stuff, that's what we've been doing lately to get the word out. And then you got Twitter, you got social media, and all that stuff, which you got to do. But I think getting it down in a booth and people can actually sit down and play it and then talk to you is really cool. And to answer that last question, it's also my favorite part about making games is when I get to like interact with people who are playing my game.
Definitely.
And see that they like. Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. It's kind of like. I was in a band for a long time, and it's like the same kind of thing. When you're on stage and people are like rocking out, like you've been working on this thing for a super long time, and then you see people are like jamming on it the same way you are. It's like, it's awesome. So that's why I like it.
If you can get up to MagFest, it's a pretty, I think, affordable way to show your game, like at a space. It's probably definitely more affordable than PAX or something. And there's a lot of like, half-done projects or like projects that are in progress at MagFest too. That like, it's just cool to see people. There was one, Just Beats and Shapes recently that like always has a huge crowd by their booth. And like, so if you make the right combination of things, you can be a hit at conventions. Gang Beast was another one that like always had a huge crowd at PAX. And that's also probably one of my favorite parts is like getting to like, meet people that have played your game and love it, or like, I've met so many people that are so much better at my game than I am. So much better. It's just, it's a fun experience.
Cool. SimCoach, how do you guys promote your games?
We just had 2 people come back from a giant construction convention? Since we're doing a lot of construction safety games.
Yeah.
So I guess we're getting debriefed on that tomorrow.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate enough to have a small marketing team, so they help. And I think sort of maybe the underlying theme is you want to go where your players are. So I gave a talk to a bunch of teachers from the area today about some of our games and sort of talked to them about how they might use them in their classroom. So maybe that doesn't work for everybody's game, but for us, that's the way we find the people who can get benefit from our games. So whether it's going to a construction convention, speaking to teachers, doing all that kind of stuff, and then obviously as individuals, we promote ourselves and our work the way everybody does with Twitter and Facebook and telling our friends and family, all that kind of thing. So I think ultimately just finding your audience and as you said, Doyle, like going out and like getting in touch with them, like that, like working with them, seeing them play your game, that's awesome.
And time and consistency, right? Like you've got, enough posts over enough time, over enough period of time. And then it starts to snowball, hopefully, right?
Yeah. There's a game dev subreddit that's pretty big that has a Screenshot Saturday.
Oh yeah, we do that.
Screen/Saturday is big.
Like you can sort of build some hype from that. Twitter, Tumblr, anything that lets you accrue followers is a great way to promote your game too, because like those people will then bring in new people and we'll kind of snowball a little bit.
And I'll self-advocate for the content creation scene too. And I think Twitter is extremely powerful, but there are a ton of content creators, even larger partner broadcasters that have been through the fight that it is to go live 6 days a week for 8 to 10 hours a day and are like, oh my God, I want to transition into something a little bit more stable in the industry. And those folks make great community managers in Discord, right? They make great people to run your Twitter account. They make great sorts of folks to do that because they've done it for themselves, right? They promoted their own brand across Twitter, across Twitch, and so it's not that hard for them to transition to a game dev team and be the comm manager in a Discord server on a Twitter account. Even if it's a part-time thing, a lot of people are happy to have that stable income so they don't feel the anxiety of, oh my God, I have to go live for 12 hours on Saturday because I need to make rent this month or whatever. That's a really real fight for the kind of middle-sized full-time content creators that are kind of just making it. So they're really can be really great resources for building community.
Cool.
You get that with translation.
Yeah, localization helps. I think just interacting with your fans is pretty big too, just kind of fostering a community. Because if you just kind of put it out there and leave it, it's not going to grow.
You're saying like Russia was huge for you, right?
Yeah,
And that's like a that's not a thing that I would think about. Like yeah, I want to like
Russia.
Huge in Russia.
I was trying to think of a Trump joke, but nothing came. It wasn't enough time.
But that's maximizing your game in a way that most like
Bring it
Indians
out
probably
there.
aren't, right? Like
You hate it.
I'm in America, I'm working on English, and that's it. But
How did that happen?
I kind of got lucky where like once streamers started playing the game, it got more attention, and then I had certain teams come to me and were like, hey, we want to translate the game, volunteer. So,
Wow. Yeah.
I kind of got lucky with that.
And there's actually, is it Creativo that makes Universim? But they just started to publish too, but they actually have a page on their website that for every single game, it's like, here are the 20 languages you want, and this one is 20% translated, this one's 80% translated, and then like users can sign up to be part of their localization, then you get credited in the game, and people get really excited about it, and get in the game's credits as just kind of a person that helped translate it. It's pretty cool. Tryon Worlds gave people like an exclusive dragon for helping them translate into Portuguese. And then went to Brazil, and so you have this like crazy like Brazilian decked out dragon that you only get if you help with localization. So in-game content can be kind of a cool way. If it's an MMO style game to get people excited about it.
I saw, I forget who it was up there.
Yeah, we have a couple questions.
Somebody mentioned programs.
Yeah, what programs do you use for making games?
So it is a golden age of
No doubt.
like software. Unreal is like free to develop in, which is crazy to me. Unity is free, also free to publish in, I believe, right?
Up to 100K.
Yeah.
You can make up to 100K.
So yeah, Unity is great. If you're dumb like me and don't code at all, and you just want like to drag and drop things like a child, I use
A non-coding child.
Yeah, I know. This plebeian. I use Construct 2. I've also used Construct 2 is good. What I love about Construct 2 is if you're like making a platformer, you just drag and drop platformer and like change a few sliding scales, and boom, you got a character that can jump around and stuff. Game Maker also. And for all you people that are like, oh, it's Game Maker Amateur Hour, Hotline Miami.
Yeah, no,
was a Game Maker
not
game.
so much. Yeah. There's a lot of
And there's a lot of Game Maker games out there. Yeah, it's growing every day.
Yeah. And you only have to learn one, like one at a time. Don't be like, oh man, but there are all these things. I should go and learn all of them and then figure out which one's best. Like, no, just pick one, make a game in it, make maybe 5 games in it, like until you're like, okay, I've had fun with this, and then you can move on. But you don't need to learn every single engine. One is good.
So we had another question from the game design student, Elijah. They said, could you scroll up or scroll down just a little? Yeah, go ahead and read it out.
As a game design student, would you say it is more important to learn at least the basics of other fields like art, sound programming, or just focus on design-specific skills?
I think it's good to at least have an understanding of everything. Base,
Yeah, learn. If you learn more about it, then it allows you to communicate with more people that all the people that are part of the development process. So the more information you have about all those pieces, it just helps you.
You don't have to be like a master.
You don't have to be master, right?
I don't think there's a problem with specializing, but I do think that like, because like obviously, I don't know, I'm an artist. It's a different side of the brain usually than programming. But like, it's important that I understand sort of how our game is constructed, so that I like when I'm making an animation, I know like, oh, if I do this, it's going to be a nightmare to implement. So I'll do a different method or something, or like understanding your pipeline is valuable as well. Also, like, the more things you know how to do, the more independent you can be. I know, like, you know, Toby Fox, for example, is making lots of money because they have a basic understanding of all the things and made a really great game by themselves. So yeah.
I would say that the smaller the team is, the more like the bigger the team is, the more specialized it gets. So if you're on a team with like 100 different people, then like being specifically like, oh yeah, no, like I am like doing visual effects, or oh, I am doing specifically like flat UI, or I'm
Just-
specifically doing 3D UI.
Just do hubcaps for cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing else.
Exactly.
Just hubcaps.
Yeah, like on the really big things, like if you're not in games that are in animation, like there are people who work for places like Pixar that are like they just do like hair and fur. That's like what they do. But the smaller that you get, and especially if you start on your own or you have a small team, like you look around and you're like, hi, can you do sound? Can you do sound? I guess I'm doing sound. Sound today, like that happens a lot. And so having a specialty is really good, but like you said, having an understanding of everything or being able to do a bunch of different stuff helps you be real independent.
Good stuff. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add that I think, I think in general, curiosity is really helpful, right? So even if you're not formally learning all these other disciplines, as you work in a team, asking your teammates questions about what they do and how they do it, to Zach's point, like it absolutely helps you do your job better, helps them do their job better when you're doing your job better, and all of that just snowballs and it works out much better for everybody. So I would just advocate being as curious as you can possibly be.
Yeah, I think being able to learn well is in common with most game devs I've met, where they're just they're quick and like you'll accidentally stumble on them and learn stuff that you didn't intend to, but it's gonna make your game better all the time. And you have to what does Unreal maybe have 4-6 years before a new engine takes over, and to learn that. So like learning to learn well and quickly seems very important.
Also, I don't know how related this is, but like playing games with that design eye, I think, is also a valuable skill. Like there are several times my girlfriend's watching me play. Sometimes she'll get infuriated because like I'll die 8 times because an explosion I like is cool and I want to see like how it was constructed. So I'll just keep on running into the wall or whatever. Like wanting to know how something works and then like picking it apart until you know how it works is a valuable skill as well.
I tell that to a lot of interns that come in, like, just play games as much as possible, because if you figure out why something you like is why you like it, will help you make a better game, and why things that frustrate you.
And you can write that analysis down, right? Like, sometimes, if you're trying to get a job in the industry, you'll play games, and then it's also nice if you have like some blog or something where you post like, hey, I really like this game, this is why I like it, and sort of break it down and like analyze, maybe, and also the things that you didn't like, right? Like this is why, maybe if they just tweak this one thing, right? So then when people are looking to hire you, right, they can see how you think about games and how you think about the problems, and that's super helpful in hiring. And like we're always going to go to your website. We're going to look at what you posted and what you haven't posted. So.
That's a question in our design interviews is what's your, what game are you playing? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Which seems like a really lame question, or maybe it's like a throwaway question like, I just want to learn your favorite game, or maybe I'm going to judge you because I don't like the game you like. I don't care about that. I want to hear whether you can talk about it intelligently, whether you can break it down, talk about why something works, not just why you like it, right? And talk about why something doesn't work. Those sorts of things, I think, if you can do that, the more practice you get doing that, the better you'll be able to answer those questions and come across well in an interview or in a portfolio.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why like showing a game off wherever you can show your game to people and watch them play it is so valuable, because like, you see 20 people sit down and die on the same spike trap. You're like, oh, I should change that. That's probably indicative of a problem.
It's their fault.
People play.
It's always their fault. Yeah.
Always their fault.
Get good.
Yeah, playtesting is important.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah. I was just gonna say, it's great when you watch the Twitch streamers and the other streamers play your game, because you're like, oh, look at all this, look at all this playtesting I can do. You can
Like
use
what
that
am
in
I
the next
doing?
level or whatever, right?
The Cuphead journalist incident, if anybody remembers that, where the
No.
game journalist couldn't get through the tutorial of Cuphead because the tutorial was kind of an afterthought. They like jammed it together, and it was kind of obvious what you had to do, but it wasn't obvious enough apparently. So.
That was so controversial too, because a lot of people were like, he did it on purpose.
Yeah,
It was
right.
clear, it was obvious what to do.
Did they go back and change the
Can't
tutorial?
get no. They
No,
don't do
no.
that way.
That's
It's
what-
like part of that game's lore now, but
Yeah.
it's a really funny incident.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know what the word for that.
Well, and it contributed to the game being hard like Dark Souls.
Oh.
That was like the meme. Yeah, every journalist was like, "It's the Dark Souls of play."
It's the Dark Souls of video games.
That was like where that began.
Dark Souls is the only hard game ever created.
Yeah.
Yes, the Cuphead incident. Everybody
The
forgot about
Cuphead incident.
early Sega Genesis
I
games.
know.
And I know somebody asked about playtesting their cards, so we'll throw out a little bit more playtesting questions. But we linked. Sean did a blog about the definitive guide of playtesting, and we linked it in the chat. And if you go to the bottom of the post, him and the design team created a little packet of like design, or playtest questions and checklists, and it's free. So it's free for you to have it and take a look at. But for the playtesting, question, what do you think, whether it's board games or mobile, VR, whatever, what are some basic tenets that you guys like to look for playtesting?
I think a big one is, and this is hard sometimes, but like you said, guys will make a game, put it out there, and they're like, no, we designed it this way, and the player's screwing up, well, they're just not getting it, right?
Nintendo, looking at you.
Yeah, no, but like, that's the hugest thing, right? If people are messing up on that part, you gotta actually admit to yourself, maybe this is bad, I should reevaluate this, because if they're having this problem and the next guy doesn't have this problem, when I'm selling this game, everyone's gonna have this problem, and the game's gonna have a problem, right? I'm not gonna have sales. So I think that's the big one, is just being humble and taking it in, and it's not personal when people get stuck on a part. It's helpful, right, if you use it.
Yeah, there's actually, I forget her name. She's working on a game called Spartan Fist that's been in a couple of PAXs, but she'll actually tweet out photos. It's like a VR kind of boxing sort of punching game. But she'll tweet out photos, and it'll just be like a screenshot of what's happening on the screen, and she'll ask in the Twitter post, like, describe what you think's happening here, and like, it's a cool way to get people to engage with you on Twitter, but then at the same time, I'll be like, I think I'm targeting its head, and it might be about to attack me. Like, we call it text-based QA. And she's like, what do you think is happening on the screen? And she'll just ask them to describe it. She'll have like 20 or 30 responses, and some of them are like way off base, and she'll be like, yeah, no, I'll be back tomorrow. Tinker with it, then put a different screenshot out tomorrow, like, now what do you think's happening? It's really funny to watch.
Off the top of my head, I would say, like, don't explain to the person playing. Don't try to make excuses for your game. Just let them experience it, let them get frustrated, and learn from it.
Accept your failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're going to ship yourself with every copy.
Or you're only planning on selling your game to yourself.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
The worst thing you can do is when I see someone be like, "Oh, let me just get you past this part because it's no, don't take the controller from the player. Don't do it. Don't do it."
Yeah. Also, testing within your target demographic. A lot of times, we will test with our friends and our people who are like nearby. Hey, coworker, you busy? Haha, trick question. You go, play test this thing now. Right? But if you're making a game for kids, for example, and say, hey, our target demographic is kids from age 10 to 12. Cool. Go find yourself some kids 10 to 12 to play your game. And do it early, not at the last minute when you're like, oh no, they had a lot of changes, we can't make these changes. Test within your demographic as early and as often as possible.
This game is the Dark Souls of children's games.
The Dark Souls of mathematics.
The Dark Souls of potty apps.
What does that mean?
I mean,
I'm trying to think of what a bonfire is.
It's so hard to get to the back.
You should not.
It's not hard. Don't think about that.
Yeah, I know we have a couple of designers here, so what other tips that you guys might have?
I think experience things. Just go out in the world and actually have experiences. Don't stay in your house and play video games all the time. Just being more around it, read books,
Go have a life, nerds.
I think also having sort of an agenda for what you're also looking to test. That way you're kind of focusing on that and you're collecting data on the specifics, so then you have something actionable next time helps. But we do, when we put our game out there, we'll collect a lot of just different data that might pop up, but maybe today, this day we're working on the tutorial, right? So we just want to really drill that and question people afterwards about the tutorial, things like that.
We also kept hard data in a spreadsheet Like, did they have trouble with this part over and over and over, and you test again a week later after a change?
Yeah, over time.
Because you'll forget, you'll have a bias, you know, so
Yeah.
that you want to be able to look at the data and be like, okay, no, it hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, just the playtester's there to help you, and you know they're always right, you're always wrong, right? Like if something's confusing, it's your fault. It's not their fault. It's just you, and you tell them that right when they start. Like it's like feel free to say anything. I can even pretend not to be related. Like I'm just testing this game for a friend. Like some people are shy to tell you to your face that your game sucks, right? It's like this is my friend's game. You can say whatever you want, right? Like, and then when they tell you that, you gotta be like, oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, when I was working,
it's not mine.
when I was working here as an intern, we were testing. I was on a project with Sean, and Sean's like, "Here, take this Schell Games T-shirt." I'm like, "Where are we going?" He's like, "Here, take this clipboard. Also, we should have a sign. Here, take this sign. We're gonna go find playtesters." We like went outside and we're like, "Hey, we look all official in our Schell Games T-shirts with our clipboard."
As long as you have a clipboard, they'll do whatever you want.
I feel like that's a really pro tip is the clipboard.
I think your point about portraying it as like, I want you to criticize this is really important to the playtester too, because I think a lot of people are nervous to, you know, like I have a lot of respect for the game development team, and so if I'm playing someone's game at PAX or whatever, like I don't really want to say mean things, right? But it's nice to have the developer be like, no, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
take
no,
this
yeah.
thing apart.
It's important for them to realize too that the game is for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
No,
like
that's a great
their
point.
criticism
That's a
is
great point.
more important. It's the most important.
I know how to play my own game,
Right.
but I don't know how you play
But
my
how
game.
it's for you guys. So like
Yeah.
you tell me, is this fun? Is this not fun?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just tell people, like, feel free to rip it apart, and then I
Yeah.
go home and just cry into a pillow.
Yeah.
Sure. And you might already cry into a pillow anyway. Life is hard sometimes.
Life is tough.
But the game is important. Yeah.
Letting them know that they're gonna make this a better product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like like they're essential to it becoming a thing, right? I think sometimes I've actually met a couple of streamers over. I mean, we've had a couple games here that I've been really happy to meet some people from across the nation and become friends with them because we've streamed them. And I think it's taken some time, but I think they've realized like, oh, wait, my voice matters. Like I'm just gonna tell them like how I really like what I really want. Don't be starstruck because we're devs. You know what I mean? Just don't talk to us. We're just people. You know, like just have at it. Like, what do you really think about this? And it's been pretty cool. And I think it makes everybody feel a little closer. You know, instead of being so far. So.
I'd also say encouraging people to talk through their thoughts. Very often people will like start talking a little bit at the beginning, and then for a couple of minutes they'll just be playing the game. So saying things like, "Hey, how are you feeling right now?" Or "What are you thinking about right now?" Or "You seem frustrated. Want to talk about that?" And like just sort of, it takes a couple of questions, but getting them talking and stream of conscious, like, "Oh man, this is so annoying. I can't find the, oh, there it is. Oh, that was so cool." Like it starts to like be able to pinpoint specific feelings to specific parts of your game, and you can go back later after you're done and ask about that. Like, "Hey, remember that time you were talking about this? Can you go into more detail?" And that's really useful.
Yeah. There's always funny stories with people playing your game. Like, you gotta not take it personal, because there's one time, the last time we went out with our game, this guy sat down and played for a really long time. He's like laughing, he's like, "Oh, the dialogue's really cool." And then he's like, he's done with it. I'm like, "Cool, man, you wanna like sign up for our email list?" He's like, "Nah, I don't like horror games." True story.
Plays for 40 minutes, hated it.
Hated every bit.
Awful.
It's not my game.
So strange.
I mean, that's a good point though. Like when you play test, it's like, so we tend to have a little bit of a debrief with our playtesters after they played. People will contradict themselves like directly. People will say things like, you'll watch someone have a great time and you'll ask them at the end, "What'd you think?" They're like, I don't really like it.
Right.
Or you'll watch someone like bang their head against a wall, like they found that one bug, and they just like, they're terrible, and you get to the end and you're like, "What do you think?" They're like, "That was awesome." And you're like, "What?"
You know, it's like hard and frustrating isn't necessarily bad if it's rewarded, right? Like that's the Dark Souls factor, right?
Yeah.
It's exciting because like, oh my god, you hate it, and then you finally get through that boss, and you're like,
Dark Souls of playtesting.
yeah, right? So it's,
Yes.
that's a hard balance.
This is the
How
no
you
beat
find
in
that.
that bug, it's a feature.
Yeah.
Before we get to that question, there was a question about, yeah, right there. Yeah, so Brig asked, you want to read that, Mike?
Sure. I understand that it's different for most people, but would any of you say your time is better spent in a class for art development or making an individual effort to create games?
That is very much a personal
It's
choice.
personal.
Yeah, I think a lot of times I've heard about people going to school for like, "Hey, I want to learn this specific skill set," or hey, I want to network specifically, because sometimes going to school will be a great way to meet other people in the industry. On the other hand, sometimes people are like, no, I learn best by doing, and can translate some of their, like, let's say I've met people who have been programmers and they're like, I'm gonna learn to program games, and they can go and teach that to themselves. I don't know. I think that if you're working on something by yourself, I recommend hanging out with other devs so that you can get outside perspectives, like at BitBridge.
Hashtag BitBridge.
Hashtag BitBridge.
Links in the chat.
But I've heard people go both ways on that.
Yeah, I recently actually wanted to start learning programming like 2 years ago. So I was like, well, where do I even start? It's super hard. My one buddy here at work was teaching me some stuff, and then I was like, well, I want to take some classes just to get the basics. And so I did a few college courses, and then that got me started. And then from there, I was like, okay, now I can learn on my own, because I kind of realized, like, by the third class, it's like, all right, it wasn't moving fast enough for where I wanted to go, and at home I could get much faster with it. So I think, maybe take a couple classes just to get your foot in the door and kind of learn the things you want to learn, like some software maybe, because it is hard to like start from nothing and like learn Photoshop, right? Like, or something like that, right? So I think get started and then really just on your own learn stuff.
To piggyback off that, I can say that when 20XX, when we had our first art pass, it looked like hot garbage. It looked awful.
At least it was
Hot garbage.
Yeah, it was hot garbage. Yeah.
No one wants cold garbage.
No one wants cold garbage.
Cold garbage sucks.
And I think I have grown in the past 4 years far more than I did at my 4-year college. Just in the trenches, like doing work every day, like. Also, to completely indulge the chat, I just changed my Twitter name, @snackboy. So, wow.
Nice. That's why he was on his phone.
That's why I was on my phone. It's for you.
B-O-I or B-O-I?
B-O-I. Thank you for pointing that out. Snack, 2 C's, B-O-I. I'm going to get like 4 new followers all of a sudden.
Make it 5.
Blow it up.
On my phone.
All right, so let's go to probably the last question. We're approaching 8. What about chili garbage? Interesting.
Is that like chili, like spicy garbage? Like a
Oh,
little bit of chili.
like actual chili
Yeah,
garbage.
like
Chili
chili powder
chili in
garbage.
the trash.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like cold chili?
So let's go. All right, so how do you come up with concepts or stories for your games? How do you come up with concepts or stories for your games? Well, Steve talked a little bit about Sally Face at the very beginning, how you came up with that.
Okay. So for that specifically, it was actually an idea I had for an internet cartoon, like back in 07. But then I tried to get a team together for it in school, and that sort of nobody could commit time to it, so that fell apart. And essentially, the idea was kind of like 90s Nicktoons, but dark and twisted. So it kind of sat in back in my mind until I decided to make it into a game. So that's sort of where that evolved from. Also, just life, getting inspiration from life events and people I know.
Yeah.
I think inspiration can really come from anywhere. Just depends on the project and the person that's making it.
I would say just make a Google Doc. Just whenever you get an idea, you're sitting around, you're on the toilet, you're in the shower, whatever, if you think of an idea, jot it down, even if it's dumb, even if it's really dumb. Because you can make 3 pages of ideas and you'll notice 2 or 3 of them are sticky. They stick around in your head and you develop them more and more. And so like, just get a wall going of ideas, I would say. And a lot of times some of the best games have been like, man, this game is fun. If only it was set in space. Like a lot of games, I feel, come about in that way. So if you're like, oh, I love Dark Souls. I want to make a Dark Souls of space games or whatever.
I think also
Shut up.
don't get married to your ideas. Like
That too.
I think the best ideas come from iteration of times.
Very.
Yeah.
Don't get married.
Okay.
Let alone new ideas.
Wow.
But,
Got real.
There's
Too much of your time.
That's good.
there's no space, Abby. There's no space between snack and boy.
That's a hard lesson to learn. For like,
This is so
no
stupid.
idea you come up with is going to be good. On
Takes a
the
long
outset, like it always takes time, and
Yeah.
if you're resistant, like it's never going to get. So
Yeah, 'cause
stay mediocre.
before our current game, Mirror, we were working on another game for literally over a year, and we realized it sucked, and we just one day were like, all of us at the same time, sucks. We none of us like it. We're like, fine, let's just scrap it. And
Rebecca was the person who used to work at Schell Games, and she and her husband Ben, they were working on IT Simulator, and they worked on it for a while, and then they like busted out what eventually became Ooblets. If you follow, it's like this, it's going to be this amazing game, and they just like, they were tweeting things, and they tweeted out this Ooblets experiment, and sorry if I'm telling this wrong, Rebecca, but like, basically everyone was like, what's that game? I want to learn more about that game. And they're like, well, see you later, IT Simulator. Like, we're doing Ooblets now, right? It's like totally, you know, sort of what.
Double Fine now?
What's that? Yeah. So yeah, you never know what's gonna. I like to use my my subconscious, right? I'll go to bed thinking about a problem or something, and like a lot of the time, I'll wake up in the morning with like, that's that idea, and I'll write it down or put it in my phone. Exactly, man.
In the shower.
Shower, yeah. Some people, yeah, exactly.
That total change of it, that's how Brawlhalla became what it is today. If you guys have heard of Brawlhalla, it's a very Super Smash Brothers like sort of fighting style game. That was supposed to be like a side-scrolling like adventure platformer, but then the team was working on combat mechanics, and they just like hooked up another controller so they could punch each other and kind of work on stuff as they wanted to, and they really liked the fighting, and they were like, never mind, we're gonna make this. That's awesome. And so that fighting mechanic became the entire game. It was totally different than what it was supposed to be.
Follow the fun.
Yeah, let it be organic. Like it's art you're creating. Like sometimes you just gotta follow it, you know? Roll with it.
Yeah, if a concept you've had since the beginning of a game is like hindering the experience that people are having, then ditch it. Like somebody else said in the room, don't be married to any of your ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas are cheap. Mario is a game about a plumber. It goes into pipes.
Kind of.
I mean, yeah.
Like all plumbers do.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been doing it wrong.
Normal life of a plumber. Yeah. The Dark Souls of plumbing.
That's my house.
Well, cool. I think I don't want to keep you guys past 8, so we'll. Any last words? Any last plugs of? We're thrilled to have our guests here. So let's have our. If you guys want to say latest things you're working on, and we'll wrap it up.
aimyourgame.com. Post that.
You want to type that in?
Yeah.
I can't.
You can type it. Oh, I can type it.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, so while Doyle's typing his plug, how about you guys, Evan?
Yeah, I think any of our games, Site Coach is the latest one. We should have some new ones coming out pretty soon around career discovery, so playing a game to discover careers that you might not have known existed. In the Buoys product line, so the first game is out there, highly recommend it, BOOEYS. And any skill arcade game, check it out. And I want to thank you guys for having us, it's been fun.
Also, Bibliotech Rebound was just publicly pushed through Duquesne, which is an e-reader, good for kids.
Cool. Bibliotech Rebound.
Yes.
Okay.
Biblio, capital TECH.
Excellent.
Oh, so not the French word for library.
No.
I would have been surfing a French library and been totally confused.
Yeah, like.
It's like, why did they make this? All right, Zach?
20XX, it's out on Steam, go play it.
I can't keep up.
That's it.
And then the deal. Did you just recently?
Yeah,
the
DLC, new character, Hawk, is great.
And we still can't find you, Snack Boy.
I know, they're having trouble.
Snack Boy.
YouTube likes to add stuff to the links, it seems to break some things. So sorry, everybody. It works. I just followed you.
Then Steve.
Sally Face is on Steam. Check it out if you like weird shit.
Perfect. James?
And I'm at @plague_TV on Twitter, and I'm always happy to help people out. And my advice from this, if there's people interested in game design or content creation, just throw yourself into it. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. Fail a lot. Just start getting involved.
Fail faster.
Fail faster.
Yeah.
Fail as fast as you can.
Failing equals learning.
Yes.
And watch the extra credits video by the same name.
There you go.
Fail faster.
Right.
Cool. And then from Schell Games, then I expect you die.
Yeah.
Windows mixed reality.
We're on all the 6DOF platforms. I expect you to die.
Yeah.
It's not a threat. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tired Buddy. That's good.
Bitbridge. At
Oh.
Bitbridge Indies.
Yes, thank you.
Bitbridge.
That's on Twitter, at Bitbridge Indies.
At Bitbridge
Indies.
Indies.
Like independent developer.
Cool.
it up.
Another thing you mentioned Pigda,
Yep.
pigda.org.
If you're in the Pittsburgh area.
Yep. And then Replay FX coming in July?
April.
Oh, April.
Oh, no,
Replay.
July.
July?
Retro.
Retro, thank you. Yeah, Pittsburgh Retro Gaming in April.
Yeah.
And then
Sign up for a Google Game Jam email, because you'll forget by next January.
there you go. Is it the last weekend of January all
Yeah,
the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go to Pig.org, you can get on our mailing list, and that's one of the big events. We do a board game jam, we can do the global game jam, we do a picnic.
Cool.
And lightning talks, which Marlena is organizing.
That's right, Marlena will be
not
organizing the lightning
Right
talks.
now.
Yep.
Look how hard she's working.
Is that done yet? I need another level design.
Sean, you told me about this yesterday.
Well, cool guys. Thank you. Guys, thank you for being with us. I think this was a lot of fun. I think this is something we're going to try to continue to do. If you're not subscribed to Schell Games, please make sure that you are. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Schell Games or /Schell Games. On Reddit, Schell Games Official as well. So we'll be doing more and more of that as some of our original IP gets announced. We'll be doing that in a couple months. That is it. So thank you guys. And have a good night, everybody.
Woo! Good night.